Chapter 551, Powerful Intimidation. Yao Xinhua's expression drastically changed as he stepped back. His eyes were suffused with coldness as he stared at Tang Xiu. His vigilance toward Tang Xiu had reached an extreme point after what happened at the charity party. "Did you come to make trouble?" asked Yao Xinhua in a sank voice. "Did you not hear what I just said?" Tang Xiu waved his hand and smiled. "If you didn't hear it clearly, then I'll say it again. You shouldn't have forgotten our bet, right? You fainted and were carried out of Sheraton Hotel, hence you lost. Thus, you must pay me the 1 billion renminbi of our gambling. My purpose in visiting you this time is very simple. Firstly, I wanted to see whether you had woken up, and secondly, to demand the money. Don't tell me a respectable young master of the Yao family can't even get a trivial amount of 1 billion renminbi?" Yao Xinhua glared at Tang Xiu for 10 plus seconds before the turbid look on his face suddenly vanished. Then, a bright smile appeared on his handsome face as he pushed the stalwart man and grinned. "What you said is correct, Tang Xiu. I accept my defeat. Give me your account number and I'll instruct someone to transfer you the money." Raising his hand to touch his chin, Tang Xiu suddenly grinned. "Young Master Yao really is a forthright man. Maybe we would be good friends if it wasn't because of our identities. Well, we can appreciate each other's abilities, though this is the second time we meet. Since it's not easy for us to see each other, I'll stay here and wait while having a chat with you. Once the money has been transferred, I'll have a feast and invite you to celebrate your waking up. Young Master Tang seems afraid that I won't pay the debt, eh?" Yao Xinhua smilingly replied. "That's fine. Since you're going to throw a banquet for me, then I won't hesitate." Having said that, he spoke something to the middle-aged big man next to him. After receiving Tang Xiu's account number, the man walked out of the ward despite hesitating. Following that, Tang Xiu took a seat on a chair, as he pointed to the sickbed and smilingly said, "You just fainted for 2 days, and your body and bones must be quite stiff. Young Master Yao, please sit on the sickbed and rest a little. Anyhow, how are those 2 foreign experts under your command? Aren't they supposed to accompany you in the Eastern campaign and help you fight for power?" A glint flashed in Yao Xinhua's eyes. He looked tranquil and composed on the surface, yet he turned more vigilant inside, since he didn't expect that Tang Xiu knew the existence of Ai Murue and Topherson. Young Master Tang really knows a lot about me. On the contrary, I know very little about you. It seems like we must get much closer to understand each other more." Tang Xiu couldn't help but burst into laughter. My, why is young Master Yao acting so modest? I'm sure everything about me is going to be turned inside out by you, no? Anyhow, I just recalled something. I heard that young Master Yao had been abroad for a few years, so you should have met Yao Qinglong often, right? The fourth uncle? Yao Xinhua was startled, yet he couldn't make heads or tails as to why Tang Xiu suddenly mentioned his fourth uncle, Yao Qinglong. However, he still smiled lightly, shook his head and he said, "Young Master Tang is kidding me. My fourth uncle is responsible to manage the family's business, whereas I myself am rarely managed them, so I almost never see him." "Nah, I don't think so. I think you must have seen him often." Tang Xiu shook his head. "Yao Qinglong is the first disciple of the thief branch and he has certainly done quite a lot of work to manage your family's businesses abroad, though there has been no significant track of him in normal times. A friend of mine mentioned him a couple days ago. He holds your uncle in high esteem." Yao Xinhua's complexion changed. The smile on his face receded like a tidal wave, as he stared at Tang Xiu with a face full of vigilance. "How did you know that my fourth uncle is the first disciple of the thief branch?" Pretending to look curious, Tang Xiu replied, "Oh, my guess turns out to be correct, huh? TSK. I gotta admit that I must admire my own IQ. I heard that the first disciple of the thief branch is called Yao Qinglong, and I suddenly recalled that your Yao family's members also have the same surname, hence I disclose it to you casually. Never thought that it was really spot on though. Instantly, Yao Xinhua's expression turned extremely unsightly. He stared at Tang Xiu and angrily replied, "Are you deceiving me?" "No, no, no. I have always heard that young Master Yao is a man whose intelligence surpasses others, so how could I be able to deceive you?" Tang Xiu waved his hand and chuckled. "I just spoke without thinking. By the way, is your staff working inefficiently or something? We've been sitting and chatting for most of the day, but why hasn't he finished the job yet? Don't tell me you can't fork out 1 billion renminbi, young Master Yao? Could it be that your men is scraping things up together?" Yao Xinhua just realized that he, who was always able to keep his composure and act deceitful, suddenly felt that his IQ was not enough when facing Tang Xiu. "Come on, don't call out you, and me, will you?" Tang Xiu chuckled. "If you tell me that you're really unable to fork out such a trivial amount, then I'll give you a discount. Besides, I'm not that unreasonable. How about I give you a 10% discount? If you think it's still too much, I can give you a 20% discount." Yao Xinhua sneered, "Young Master Tang sure is impressive, huh? But my answer is no. In my eyes, 1 billion yuan is nothing but a trivial amount of money. Besides, unlike someone, this money was not obtained from my family. Of course, each bill is stained with blood, so I don't know whether the one using my money won't end up having the same fate as their previous owners." "Amazing." Tang Xiu gave him a thumbs up. "My money was indeed given by my family members. I don't have such good abilities. I'm so timid that I don't even dare to kill a chicken, and only have the balls to stun a few swine and dogs once in a while." Yao Xinhua was incensed and furious. The reason why he ended up in the hospital was because Tang Xiu stunned him, which meant that Tang Xiu's remark was akin to calling him a swine or a dog. Knock, knock. The ward's door was knocked, and the middle-aged big man returned. He came to Yao Xinhua's side and whispered something to his ear. Then, Yao Xinhua raised his head to look at Tang Xiu and said, "The money has just been transferred to your account. May I ask what kind of dishes young Master Tang wants me to eat today? I just met a butcher, and 2 days ago, he said that he's going to put down his butcher knife and open a restaurant." Tang Xiu let out a faint smile. "When I went to visit him, he served me a few puffer fishes. So, we'll have blowfish meat today." 1. Puffer fish? Yao Xinhua shuddered inwardly. He suddenly turned his head to the middle-aged big man next to him and angrily said, "What did you just say? You want me to go back and deal with something important? Did you not hear that young Master Tang has just invited me to eat pufferfish meat?" At first, the middle-aged big man stared blankly, before replying quickly, "Young Master, it's not that I have to take you back, but we indeed have something urgent to deal with. How about you invite young Master Tang some other day? I remember an old carpenter who used to sell coffins. He also opened a restaurant recently, and has learned how to cook pufferfish in a few days." Yao Xinhua nodded in satisfaction. A grin appeared on his face as he looked at Tang Xiu and said, "You heard that, young Master Tang? I'm afraid I'm unable to accept your invitation today. But I'll invite you some other day, and I'll do that personally." Tang Xiu let out a smile and glanced at the middle-aged big man. He then got up and walked to him, patted his shoulder while gently smiling and said, "You're great, a very loyal and faithful dog. Because young Master Yao has some matters to deal with today, then I won't insist. I'll take my leave, then." After saying that, he turned to leave along with the 2 big men. When he was about to walk through the door, he suddenly stopped, turned around and smilingly said, "Young Master Yao, since your 4th uncle is the first disciple of the thief sect, help me convey a message when you meet him. Tell him that I'm hoping to cooperate with him if there's a chance in the future given the business in his hand." "Sure. I won't see you out," replied Yao Xinhua with a foxy smile. After Tang Xiu left, only then did Yao Xinhua grimaced. He fiercely punched the sickbed before taking his mobile phone and dialing the number of an elder of his family. A few minutes later, as Tang Xiu left Jingmen Island's first public hospital, he comfortably sat on the back seat of the sedan and asked, "What the two of you think, was it I who had the upper hand, or was it that Yao fella?" The big man on the front seat turned his head and smilingly said, "Of course it was you who won, boss. Your momentum and imposing manner were very intimidating, and you kept pressing that Yao guy. However imposing a momentum it may have been, it's just an empty thing." Tang Xiu chuckled. "But today, at least the goal has been achieved. 1 billion, eh? TSK, TSK. Even if Yao Xinhua does have quite some money, I think it's enough for him to be in pain for quite a while. Also, I just found an interesting thing today that made me decide to let this guy live longer." "What interesting thing, boss?" the big man on the front seat asked with a puzzled expression. "Don't tell me you didn't notice that Yao Xinhua is very afraid of me?" asked Tang Xiu. The stalwart man dazed for a moment before he immediately nodded and smilingly said, "True that. His eyes were full of vigilance ever since he saw you. Like he was guarding against all possible dangers from an enemy. Only, his man didn't understand him. Anyhow, he's an enemy, and it's better to kill him directly. Why should we allow him to live longer, boss? We in the Yao family are bound to have a fierce battle in the future, a struggle between two evenly matched mortal enemies." Tang Xiu smiled. "Though Yao Xinhua is quite shrewd and deep and is considered as the best in the younger generation, I have already planted the seed of fear in his heart. It will be quite difficult for him to remain composed and natural whenever he confronts me in the future. Don't you think that such an enemy will be easy to deal with? If the enemy changed to a new one, do you think we can still easily cope with this new adversary we're unfamiliar with?" The stalwart man was silent for a moment before slowly nodding, "I get you, boss." Tang Xiu smiled faintly and turned to look out of the window, and no longer talked. Ring, ring, ring. A mobile ringtone sounded. Tang Xiu took his mobile phone out and looked at the number displayed on the screen. It was a call from Kong Xia. After connecting the phone, he smiled and said, "Hello, Kong Xia. Is something up?" "Boss, the second-in-charge figure of the Italian mafia's Subwa clan wants to see you." Kong Xia's voice came from the phone and her tone was especially serious. Tang Xiu was silent for a moment before asking, "Where is he now?" "Star City," answered Kong Xia. Chapter 552, A Big Deal. Tang Xiu thought for a while, before nodding and saying, "Since he wants to see me, then tell him to come to Jingmen Island." "I'm now in Jingmen Island." "What are you doing in Jingmen Island, boss?" asked Kong Xia, surprised. "I told you before that I'm going to rent 2 islands in the South China Sea. It just so happened that a particular circumstance has arisen, so I came over here to deal with it." "I see. Are you by chance going to return to Shanghai at the end of this month?" asked Kong Xia. "Apparently so," said Tang Xiu. "Since you're going back to Shanghai at the end of this month, then I'll be supervising the operation and personally open the new store in Shanghai by the end of this month," said Kong Xia with a smile. After conversing for a while, Tang Xiu hung up the phone call. As for the issues with the Italian mafia's Subwa clan, he had sent people to investigate them and naturally had already investigated the number 2 figure of that syndicate, Druffet, who had great authority in the Subwa clan and someone of high status in Italy. Retaliation? Tang Xiu felt that it was unlikely. Druffet would have directly hit the magnificent Tang Corp if he wanted to retaliate. He wouldn't have contacted Kong Xia and asked to see him through her. But if it wasn't for revenge, then what exactly did he want? Though he had thought deeply about it, Tang Xiu still couldn't figure it out, hence didn't feel like occupying his mind with it since he had long prepared different measures needed to deal with different situations. As of now, his focus was placed on those 2 islands. He still had no idea how the Tang family would take to deal with the negotiations and whether they could acquire those 2 islands. However, he had long decided that he would directly employ force if the Tang family ultimately failed, though it was only a last resort so as to prevent the Yao family getting them. Time fleeted by, and 2 days passed by in the blink of an eye. Over the past 2 days, Tang Xiu spent his time in a carefree and leisure manner. Aside from the necessary daily cultivation, he just read books while savoring his tea and accompanying Gu Yan, who was still in slumber inside the exquisite pagoda. Grand Master, a guest just came to the everlasting feast hall, saying that he has an appointment with you. Gu Xiaoshue's figure appeared on the 7th floor of the exquisite pagoda and reported with a respectful manner. Is his name Druffet? Asked Tang Xiu lightly. Yes, it's him, said Gu Xiaoshue with a nod. Tang Xiu nodded in response. After Gu Xiaoshue left the exquisite pagoda, he went straight to the private dining room booked by Druffet in the everlasting feast hall. After revealing his identity to the 4 burly foreigners, he then entered the room. However, the first one he saw when he came in was not Druffet, but an unexpected acquaintance. Never thought I'd meet you here, Miss Ji. The reason Ji Shiyan followed Druffet to Jingmen Island was because the man was a friend of her boss, and her company had a business relationship with him. She was startled and astonished when she saw Tang Xiu come inside. It was evident that she didn't expect the person Druffet would see was actually Tang Xiu. Hello, Mr. Tang. Tang Xiu nodded slightly at her before looking at the tall Druffet, as he stretched out his hand and smilingly said, Welcome, friend from afar. I'm Tang Xiu, the magnificent Tang Corporation's owner. Druffet didn't receive the handshake, however, but squinted his eyes and sized up Tang Xiu instead. Then he let out a cold snort and lightly said, You really are quite an awesome and powerful man, Boss Tang. To think you actually made me come to Jingmen Island to see you. Tang Xiu's facial expression turned overcast, and then went straight to the innermost couch and took a seat. After tilting his leg, he lit up a cigarette and drew a few deep puffs before giving his reply in an indifferent and detached manner. Whether or not I'm powerful, haven't your men already experienced it? What's wrong? Do you think you haven't lost enough and want to lose some more people in China? Druffet's expression changed. Tang Xiu's remark was akin to exposing the scabbed wounds, causing his face turned very unsightly. If he didn't consider the fact that he was in China, which was literally Tang Xiu's domain, he would have pulled out his gun and shot him. Mr. Tang, I demand an explanation from you and the magnificent Tang Corp, because nobody in the entire world can stay safe and sound after causing the Tsubwa clan to suffer a loss. Druffet directly delivered his threat. Tang Xiu turned to Ji Shiyan and said lightly, Miss Ji, I won't kill him in your account, but I want you to drag him out of this place. I can't guarantee that he can still leave this everlasting feast hall alive otherwise. Druffet's facial expression changed, whereas Ji Shiyan looked panicked. Others may not be aware how powerful Tang Xiu was, but she knew it perfectly well, for she and Li Laoshan were once rescued by Tang Xiu alone. Mr. Tang, I think you misunderstood something here. Mr. Druffet didn't mean to embarrass you. Though I don't know what happened between the two of you, I believe getting rid of an enmity is better than keeping it alive. And Mr. Druffet, Mr. Tang is a friend of mine, and he has once saved my life. If you still speak with such an attitude, I'm afraid my assistance to you will be close to nothing, said Ji Shiyan with all seriousness. Druffet fell into silence for a period of time before he nodded, looked at Tang Xiu and said, I've sent people to investigate the cause of the incident, Mr. Tang. It indeed wasn't directly related to your company, but a certain special department in your country. Forget it. I won't pursue this matter since it has already happened. The reason I came looking for you is that I want to negotiate a cooperation. I don't think there's something that we need to cooperate, said Tang Xiu lightly. I don't think so, Mr. Tang. Druffet shook his head. A cooperation between us is very necessary. Maybe you don't know what I mean by this cooperation. Tang Xiu spread out his hand and replied, To tell you the truth, I really don't know what kind of medicine you are selling. So tell me, what do you mean by this collaboration? I want to hire some of your people here to help me accomplish a trivial matter, with a high price, of course. Druffet said. I think you can get my friendship and great benefits from me if the results are what I want them to be. Elaborate, said Tang Xiu. According to the information I have, the Everlasting Feast Hall is yours, and you have several very formidable people here. Druffet seriously explained. Whether it is teamwork in battles or covert assassinations, they all are topmost experts. As for myself, I can't wait any longer to take the godfather seat of the Tsubwa clan. I think you understand me, right? Your price, said Tang Xiu slowly after being silent for a while. $1 billion, plus a large gold mine in Africa, said Druffet. Can you tell me who are those you want to hire? Asked Tang Xiu. They are the black and white impermanents, dark and light, the body grinder, Gao Feng, and the snow hare, Mo Lei. Of course, I will increase the pay by $100 million for each extra expert you send. The premise is that their strength is on par with the black and white impermanents. 1. Tang Xiu clapped his hands and exclaimed, what a big deal. I think the deal can be carried out. But still, I want to know something. How exactly did you know that I'm the owner of the Everlasting Feast Hall? And how did you know that the two of them are under the Everlasting Feast Hall? I have my own intelligence channels, and I paid quite some price to purchase the information of their whereabouts. Druffet squinted his eyes. You ought to have heard about the Dark Wind Organization, no? I got it from that world's largest intelligence agency. Dark Wind Organization? It was the first time Tang Xiu heard the name, yet this intelligence organization instantly aroused his vigilance. After staying silent for a while, he said slowly, $2 billion plus that gold mine in Africa. And it's non-negotiable. Up to 10 days, you can be sure that the current godfather of your Tsubwa clan will disappear from this planet. And if you fail? Asked Druffet in a solemn tone. The result is already set after I took this deal. Tang Xiu said lightly. Look, Mr. Druffet, you are the one who looked for me to seek cooperation, and I never see such a huge sum of money that didn't enter my pockets. Druffet spent several minutes pondering before he slowly nodded and said, in this way, may we have a great cooperation. There's one last question I want to ask you, though. Tang Xiu calmly said. There are many excellent assassins in the world, and there are some powerful mercenary companies as well. Why did you come to me? Furthermore, why did you go so far so as to go to the magnificent Tang Corporation rather than come to the Everlasting Feast Hall directly? There are ghosts around me, said Druffet with a forced smile. Tang Xiu stared blankly for a moment, before he immediately understood what he meant. He then smiled and said, it seems that your situation in the Tsubwa clan is not as good as seen by outsiders, Mr. Druffet. Power and privilege are very captivating, yet very dangerous stuff, said Druffet with a reluctant expression. Approvingly nodding, Tang Xiu smiled and said, give me the information. I'm sure that you must have them prepared in advance since you wanted to hire us. Druffet gave him a thumbs up and praised as he immediately picked up a briefcase and handed it over to Tang Xiu, saying, all the information on him is inside. Also, except himself, I want his several right-hand men to vanish from this world if possible. Besides, that gold mine is actually prepared for those people. I understand. Tang Xiu got up and chuckled. Anyways, there are some things I need to attend to, so I won't be able to accompany you. Mr. Druffet, you're a VIP of the Everlasting Feast Hall, so you're exempted from paying. And do please contact us if you have other great deals again later. After saying that, he directly left. After meeting Gu Xiaoxue on the seashore, he lightly spoke, I just received a great deal. $2 billion plus a gold mine. Tell Dark and Light to prepare to go out and play. Gu Xiaoxue let out a faint smile and said, Grand Master, their strength has grown by leaps and bounds recently. Even I am no longer their opponent anymore. I'm sure the job can be accomplished easily if they are the ones assigned to it. After handing the briefcase to her, Tang Xiu said, "The target is the current godfather of the Tsubwa clan, as well as several of his right-hand men. Their specific details should all be in this briefcase. This matter will be yours to take care of." "Understood." Gu Xiaoxue nodded with a smile. Chapter 553, Cry for Help. Covert methods must be employed to deal with issues that must be kept in the dark. Tang Xiu may not have high emotional intelligence, but he was highly intelligent. After handing over the issue to Gu Xiaoxue and returned to the carefree life he had enjoyed in the previous 2 days, Han Qingwu always looked for him once every morning and evening to chat on some random topics, yet he never talked nor mentioned the matter of the memory fragments and scenes inside her mind. Slowly, a few days passed by. In stark contrast with Tang Xiu's leisurely life, Yao Xinhua passed his time in anxiety, and a day was akin to a year for him. It was a week already, and there had been no news on his fourth uncle, Yao Qingting. The news he ultimately obtained was that there was no trace of him in Jingmen Island, as if his fourth uncle had vanished without a trace. He had a suspicion that it was the work of Tang Xiu, but the result of the investigation was that Tang Xiu had always been in the everlasting feast hall and never left the site, even a step. Furthermore, there was another thing that troubled and gave him headaches. Unbeknownst to him of what kind of supernatural being he had provoked, all the stuff he always carried, including his wallet that contained his ID card and bank card, had been stolen. He didn't even know when and how the culprit did that. It was just like when he got stunned by Tang Xiu at the charity and wasn't able to notice how Tang Xiu did it. Nevertheless, the issues here had all been relayed to his family, and he was ordered to continue staying in Jingmen Island to observe the changes and circumstances quietly. At the everlasting feast hall, the fragrant smell of dishes fluttered in the air in hall of the first floor. Ji Shiyan, who was donned in a casual suit, calmly sat in front of the dining table in the corner while savoring the dishes. A few days had passed and Druffet had already left, yet she stayed in the everlasting feast hall. She just learned Tang Xiu's status as the big boss of the everlasting feast hall. Though she was surprised and felt it was somewhat accidental, she felt that if she could get close to Tang Xiu and entered his good books, the advantages and benefits she could get in the future would be many. Furthermore, there was also another idea that crossed her mind. As of recently, her boss had been bewitched and captivated by a vixen. Under the spell of their pillow talks, his attitude toward her began to change and it made her quite frustrated, so much so that she had the idea to leave the company. Therefore, when her boss sent her to Star City to escort Druffet, she set her eyes on the magnificent Tang Corp as well as Tang Xiu. To her surprise as well as joy, the person Druffet was visiting was named Tang Xiu, who turned out to be the owner of the magnificent Tang Corporation, her former acquaintance. Hence, she kept staying here, trying to find time to see Tang Xiu again. "Hello, your dishes have all been served." A beautiful waiter put the last dish on the table and said with a smile. "Could I bother you with something?" "I want to see Tang Xiu, can you help me?" Ji Shiyan nodded and suddenly asked. "I apologize, I have no right to call the boss," said the waitress with an apologetic expression. "If you can't, could you please tell your superior?" asked Ji Shiyan. "I'm a guest here, shouldn't you meet the requests of the guests?" "I'll try." 10 minutes later, Tang Xiu walked into the dining hall of the restaurant. After glancing around, he walked toward the corner of the hall and took a seat across Ji Shiyan. Tang Xiu waved to Ji Shiyan, who got up, and then smilingly said to her, "I heard that you're looking for me. Is there something you need from me?" "Indeed. I do have some matters to talk you about, Mr. Tang," said Ji Shiyan smilingly. "What is it?" asked Tang Xiu. "What do you think of my ability, Mr. Tang?" asked her. Tang Xiu sized her up, before smilingly nodding, "Your ability should be good, given your previous position and the way you handled issues with your work." Ji Shiyan sat straight and asked, "Do you think you can use me? Do you want to change jobs, by chance?" asked Tang Xiu back in surprise. I do have the idea, but I have yet to find my next home, Ji Shiyan nodded. I want to know the reason first, said Tang Xiu after a few moments' silence. The truth is, I'm a trusted aide of my current boss and am usually tasked with important positions and responsibility in the company, said Ji Shiyan reluctantly. However, my boss was recently captivated by a woman who has a personal grudge with me. You should have heard things about pillow talks, no? To be honest, these pillow talks were really powerful. I have been being treated coldly lately, and I've been given many field assignments. I feel that if this situation keeps going on, it's very likely that my current company will kick me out without me handing over my resignation. Tang Xiu suddenly understood and then smilingly said, I'll give you 2 weeks. After you have dealt with the issues with your current employer, then go to Star City to find Kong Xia. I believe she will arrange you a suitable position. Ji Shiyan's eyes brightened up and excitedly said, I believe my choice to enter the magnificent Tang Corporation is correct, since the prospect of future growth and development of this company is the brightest one I've ever seen. I thank you in advance for this chance, boss. I promise you that I'll work hard. Tang Xiu waved his hand and said, speaking about it, we had experienced some things together, so leave out the ceremonial talk. Anyhow, was the reason you kept staying here because you wanted to talk to me about this? Yes. Ji Shiyan nodded with a smile. Ji Shiyan, there are times you can hear some words and some others that you cannot, and sometimes there are things you can disclose and some others that you must not. You're a smart woman. I'm sure you understand what I mean, Tang Xiu said. For a moment, Ji Shiyan's face scrunched up and hesitated before she eventually got a glimmer of insight. She then nodded and said, I seem to have accompanied Mr. Druffett to see you a couple of days ago, but I forgot the content of your conversation. Giving her thumbs up, Tang Xiu praised, young people are promising and worthy to be taught. All right, since the dishes have already been served, let's have dinner together. You won't mind it, right? It's my pleasure, said Ji Shiyan with a smile. Originally, the meal should end in a pleasant atmosphere. However, just as Tang Xiu had a few mouthfuls, his mobile phone suddenly buzzed and rang. As he took out the phone and saw the caller ID, he suddenly felt a headache, because the caller was Han Qingwu. What else do you need, Teacher Han? Tang Xiu, help me. Han Qingwu's cry came out of the mobile phone. Tang Xiu abruptly got up and his complexion changed as he asked in a heavy voice, Where are you? What happened? I'm in Big Bimo Shopping Center on the Haiban Road. I went out and got surrounded by a few people, said Han Qingwu hurriedly. Tang Xiu gave a hand gesture to Ji Shiyan, left the dining hall in big strides and quickly rushed to the parking lot. On the way there, he met a patrol group and directly called out to the 8 men. Take me to the Big Bimo Shopping Center on Haiban Road. Roger. The 8 experts of Everlasting Feast Hall answered in unison. Inside the Big Bimo Shopping Center, Han Qingwu's expression was restless and anxious as she stood with her back against the wall while staring at the dozens of youths in sportswear in front, led by a youth sporting a crew-cut hairdo. At the front of the dozen youths was the crew-cut young man called Huang Shiqing, who wore a disdaining look and coldly said, Bitch, you broke my little brother's arm, so you must go with us today. Otherwise, the Huang Martial School will lose completely face. I won't go. Han Qingwu raised her handbag and furiously yelled. At present, though her strength and speed were 10 times stronger and faster than before, she still didn't know any martial arts. She may be able to defeat anyone in front of her if it was a 1-to-1 bout, but there were dozens of youths in front of her, a number she couldn't beat at all. You won't go? Huang Shiqing sneered. Humph, you no longer have that option. It was your younger brother who molested the other women. I hit him since he also made a move on me. Han Qingwu angrily shouted. Who would have imagined that he would be hit so badly that his arm got broken? I warn you. If you dare to act unruly toward me, I'm sure someone will come to pack you up shortly. Are you relying on the phone call you just made? Humph, what a joke. Huang Shiqing sneered. There are indeed a few people in Jingmen Island that I, Huang Shiqing, cannot afford to stir up. But I don't give a damn care for any fucking layman you drag here. If you got the ability, call someone from the Ouyang family. The Ouyang family? Ouyang Lulu's face appeared inside Han Qingwu's mind, but she immediately cast it away. Though Lulu was a native of Jingmen Island and a member of the Ouyang family, she wasn't that close to her and maybe, she wouldn't want to help her. She would even probably watch from the side, gloating at her misfortune and bitter experience, treating it like a joke. I warn you. That person I just called is very powerful. Many powerful people are afraid to act rampant before him. If you dare to act untoward, I'm sure he will definitely pack you up for good. Wait for him to come here if you don't believe me. Wait for him to come? Huang Shiqing mocked. This father has no time to waste. Drag her to our school. If this father doesn't give her a good lesson this time, I won't be able to swallow this anger. Another youth rolled his sleeves up and smirked. Brother Qing, this woman is very great, give her to me to smack her ass. I promise you she will be very docile after I have packed her up, and then I'll take her to apologize to you, Brother Huang. She's yours, said Huang Shiqing lightly. The youth looked excited and instantly strode toward Han Qingwu, directly grabbing her shoulder. Go away. Han Qingwu swung the handbag towards him. Her right leg quickly sent a kick and hit the youth's face, sending him backward. Bam. After flying backward for 5+ meters, the youth's body finally slammed to the ground and directly fainted. What? The remaining dozens of youths were dumbfounded. They never expected that Han Qingwu, who looked so delicate and fragile, could actually kick their comrade until he passed out. They previously thought that Han Qingwu could break Huang Shiqing's arm because he was struck with bad luck and fell by himself. But now it looked like this woman was really strong. Huang Shiqing squinted his eyes. The speed displayed by Han Qingwu's kick was slightly faster than his fastest speed. This fact secretly made him vigilant. However, when he saw the panicked expression on Han Qingwu's face, he let out a sneer and growled, Xiao Dao, grab this bitch for me. Sure. A stocky and imposing youth, called Little Blade, flushed toward Han Qingwu. His leg swiftly whipped onto Han Qingwu's shoulder and heavily hit it, causing her to directly slam to the ground. Chapter 554, Rushing to the Martial Arts School. At this time, Huang Shiqing could tell that, despite possessing quick speed and powerful strength, it was evident that the woman didn't know any martial arts moves. She didn't even know the basics of fighting skills at all. This discovery made the tightness in his heart instantly ease down, and he even revealed a jeering expression. Pa. He then grabbed Han Qingwu and slapped her. As 5 bright red fingerprints appeared on Han Qingwu's face, he threw her to Xiao Dao and sneered, take this bitch back to our martial school and let her make a phone call on the way there. I want to see who has the ability to save her in this Jingmen Island. Okay. Xiao Dao thickly smiled. He grabbed Han Qingwu's hand and dragged her into a car. Several cars then quickly left, as the frightened Han Qingwu made a phone call to Tang Xiu. Heroes Crest Martial School. It was a low-profile martial arts school located in the western suburb of Jingmen Island. However, this martial arts school was managed by martial arts experts. The schoolmaster didn't manage it all year round, thus entire operation of the school was completely controlled by its vice schoolmaster, Jiang Mentian. Jiang Mentian was a martial arts grandmaster, and his strength had reached the apex. If several martial arts experts were to gang up on him, they would find it difficult to get close to him. Only relying on his skills, he had laid a foothold for himself in Jingmen Island with his bare hands. Later on, unbeknownst to everyone, he inexplicably became the vice schoolmaster of Heroes Crest Martial School, and it had been 2 decades since. In recent years he had been staying in the hall nearly every day. Apart from practicing his martial arts, he also cultivated flowers and plants and spent his time in a particularly happy and fulfilling life. Despite so, all the bigwigs from all walks of life in Jingmen Island still respected him due to his strength. They often came to visit and have a drink with him, to exchange favors and such. Of course, part of the reason was that he had numerous inextricable links with several families who ran underground businesses in Jingmen Island. At this time, Jiang Mentian was pruning the flowers and plants in the courtyard garden, whereas two sturdy and burly men stood guard as gatekeepers at the gate. Master Jiang. A lean youth strode into the courtyard and quickly came to Jiang Mentian's side. Jiang Mentian knitted his brows and grunted with an annoyed expression, "Xiao Hu, did you forget the rules I set here? Don't bother me whenever I'm pruning flowers and plants if there's no urgent matters." The thin youth forced a smile and said, "Master Jiang, I didn't want to bother you, actually. But, Huang Shiqing just returned from the outside and brought a woman and is now detaining her. And now he has set up a combat formation in the training field, as if waiting for the arrival of someone important." "Did you say Huang Shiqing?" Jiang Mentian said lightly with raised brows. "The one who once threatened to change our hero's crest martial school to his Huang family dojo or something. Did he stir up trouble outside?" "It's because of Huang Shiyang, his younger brother, Master Jiang," reported the lean youth. "His arm was broken." "That's right, it was caused by the woman who was brought back by them. The Huang brothers have become more and more outrageous in recent years." Jiang Mentian shook his head and sighed. "I originally thought he was a good material to pass on my kung fu, and I planned to give him the responsibility to handle some business of our martial school outside. Little did I think he would become so unruly and rampant. It seems I have become lazy in recent years, and haven't properly disciplined him." "What should we do, Master Jiang?" the lean young man quickly asked. "Since Huang Shiqing has brought someone to be detained in our martial school, this means he's going to fight others using the banner of our martial school. Although this matter clearly has no relationship whatsoever with us, the other party won't believe it." Jiang Mentian was silent for a short while before saying, "Wait for me to finish pruning the potted plants. And then I'll teach that brat something." "Understood." The lean young man's eyes flashed, and he immediately stepped back and waited in silence. The Hero's Crest Martial School covered a large area, and the front yard of the martial school was like a regular football field. At this moment, Han Qinggu was tied to a pole with her mouth stuffed with clothes, whereas Huang Shiqing sat on the chair 10 meters away in front of her while calmly sipping tea. Behind him, several stocky youths were glancing at Han Qinggu with folded arms, and malice was evident in their eyes. Dozens of meters away from them, dozens of coaches and trainees of the Hero's Crest Martial School were looking at them from the side with curious expressions, yet no one came to even ask what this was about. They looked at Huang Shiqing's arrogant expression with dread. Less than 10 minutes later, 4 black SUVs rushed through the front gate of the Hero's Crest Martial School. Along with the shout of the old man guarding the gate, the 4 cars rushed in and stopped in front of a row of 2-storied buildings. 2 burly men then came down from an SUV and rushed to one trainee. One of them hit him without speaking any words and dragged the trainee to the car's window where Tang Xiu was. As the window glass slowly opened, Tang Xiu's face appeared. His eyes fixed on trainee, and then he indifferently asked, "Your Hero's Crest Martial School's people have just caught and detained a woman, have you not?" That trainee's expression was flushed red. He raised his head and angrily glared at Tang Xiu, shouting, "Yes. Huang Shiqing from our martial school is the one who has that woman. Who the hell are you people? You dare to rush into our martial school and cause trouble here? Do you not fear going back with no life left in your body? Oh my, it seems that I just came to a nest of thieves, eh? Tell me where this Huang Shiqing is, and where is that kidnapped woman?" Tang Xiu sighed and asked with a cold expression. "They are in the martial arts practicing field, to the left," shouted the trainee. The 2 burly men released him and returned to the car. The 4 SUVs drove straight to the training field and arrived there within just a minute. Tang Xiu could clearly see Han Qingwu tied up on the pole in the training field, whereas Huang Shiqing was currently sitting on a chair and drinking his tea. At this moment, Huang Shiqing just lifted his teacup. Just as he saw the 4 black SUVs rushing in, his expression immediately changed. When the 4 cars stopped 10+ meters away from them and 8 black-suited men wearing grim expressions came down from the cars, his eyes finally fell on Tang Xiu, who just stepped off the car. Only this much people came in the 4 cars? Quite ostentatious. He put the teacup down and looked at Tang Xiu's group in disdain. He casually lowered his head and played with his right fingernails. Looking at the sight in front, Tang Xiu secretly sighed. He didn't expect that Han Qingwu, who only went out to play, would cause such much trouble, and it seemed like it was not a small trouble either. However, he himself didn't have a complaint toward her, since he was perfectly aware that she would never take the initiative to provoke others. He walked toward Han Qingwu and saw tears gushing out from her eyes as they fell down her face. Tang Xiu gently untied her from the ropes and took the stuffed clothes from her mouth, saying, "Were you hit? Does it hurt?" "Whoa." The moment Han Qingwu was untied, she immediately threw herself into Tang Xiu's bosom. Her grieved feelings caused her to cry hard and tightly hugged Tang Xiu. It was as if Tang Xiu's bosom was the safest place for her. Wow. The hero saving the belle, huh? Even the belle gave herself in. What a touching scene. Xiao Dao, who stood behind Huang Shiqing, blew a loud whistle and shouted, grinning. Tang Xiu didn't push her away straight away, and let her hug him for a while. After patting her back, he gently pushed her away and led her to a chair. As for Huang Shiqing, he didn't prevent him. "Do you mind if I take her away now?" asked Tang Xiu. His voice was composed and tranquil, yet a chilling intent was suffused within. Huang Shiqing raised his head. The disdaining expression on his face turned thicker. He tilted his leg, took a cigarette from his pocket and lit it up. After taking a deep puff, he jeered, "Do you think my Huang Martial School is a place you can come and go as you please?" "The Huang Martial School?" Tang Xiu's brows creased and indifferently said, "If I didn't misread the plaque outside, this should be Hero's Crest Martial School. How come it turned into the Huang Martial School?" "It is called the Hero's Crest Martial School now. But the vice schoolmaster thinks highly of me. Isn't this the same that my words will decide everything in this school after he retires in the future?" Huang Shiqing sneered. "Brat, you look quite young, but you must have heard the name and reputation of our martial arts, no? I really didn't expect you to have the balls to come to the rescue here. For me to admire you isn't really unjustified. Whether it's admirable or not, just forget it. I don't want to waste more time dealing with such a nobody like you," said Tang Xiu. "I came here to rescue a person, and since I've rescued her, then it's time to go. If you dare to stop me, then I can only destroy that plaque and this martial school as well." At this time, Jiang Mentian, who just came out leading several instructors of the school who had been trained by him personally, arrived near the crowd. He originally intended to reprimand Huang Shiqing, but after hearing Tang Xiu's words, his brows slightly pricked up, and then he coldly spoke, "What a big tone. Did you just say you'll destroy the plaque of the Hero's Crest Martial School? Vice Schoolmaster." Although Huang Shiqing was extremely arrogant, he didn't dare to show it before Jiang Mentian. It must be noted that the person he dreaded the most in the Hero's Crest Martial School was none other than Jiang Mentian. He hastily got up from the chair and respectfully gave the seat to Jiang Mentian. Jiang Mentian shot him a cold look. After sitting on the chair, he looked at Tang Xiu and spoke again, "I actually wasn't going to bother with the matters between you youngsters. But since you all came to my martial school, I can't help but come forward and act on my school's behalf. What's wrong? How exactly do you want to settle this dispute?" Huang Shiqing, who stood beside Jiang Mentian, sternly shouted, "Vice Schoolmaster, you can't spare that bitch. She has broken my younger brother's arm. I won't give this matter up. Trash. Jiang Mentian roared angrily. Huang Shiqing's expression changed, and he immediately shut his mouth out of embarrassment. Tang Xiu shook his head and indifferently said, I presume you are the vice schoolmaster here, yes? Your strength is indeed remarkable, and you can be regarded as a top-tier martial artist. Since your people won't allow me to go, I no longer want to go as well. I'll give you a chance to expel him and those standing behind him from your martial school, then I will no longer pursue this matter. Otherwise? What will happen otherwise, huh? Jiang Mentian sneered. Chapter 555, Shuddering. With a cold expression, Tang Xiu said, otherwise, none of you in this martial arts school will be able to walk away with your legs today. Clap, clap, clap. Jiang Mentian clapped and smiled, yet contempt flashed in his eyes, while dozens of the martial arts school's instructors and trainees gathered in the surrounding now numbered at 50+ people. They, too, looked at Tang Xiu with contempt and disdain. Is this guy a retard or something? Doesn't he know where he is right now? What an idiot. He dares to come to our martial school yet acts so rampant. Does he want to die? About 7 or 8 years ago some brats came to make trouble in our martial school. At the end of the day they only got their legs broken and got their asses kicked out of this here like dead dogs. Afterward, the families of those brats were unable to stay in Jingmen Island anymore and were forced to leave in disgrace. He's nuts. He thought that, by bringing a group of 8 bodyguards, he could raise a hue and cry at us? Humph, he really doesn't know how to write dead, it seems. The Heroes Crest Martial School's instructors and trainees chatted. They were itching for a fight and were just waiting for the vice schoolmaster's order to give Tang Xiu and his men a fierce lesson. Han Xingguo pulled Tang Xiu's sleeve and said with an anxious and restless expression, Tang Xiu, let's just leave. This is a martial arts school, and they seem very strong. Tang Xiu shook his head. He observed the disdain on Jiang Mentian's expression and indifferently said, I've given you a chance, and since you didn't take, don't blame me for being cruel and merciless. Everyone, move. Break their legs. Each of the 8 experts from the Everlasting Feast Hall possessed strength that was far beyond that of a martial arts grandmaster. The moment Tang Xiu issued the order, the 8 men flashed toward them like tigers. As fast and strong as they were, the moment they clashed with the Heroes Crest Martial School their powerful strikes already knocked 10+ people down. What? Jiang Mentian had never thought that the people brought by Tang Xiu would instantly act the moment they received the order. What was beyond his imagination was that the strength displayed by them was extremely powerful. It would be very strenuous for himself if he were to confront these 8 men simultaneously. Stop! A loud shout came out from Jiang Mentian's mouth. The Everlasting Feast Hall's experts didn't stop their actions at all, however, because they only listened to Tang Xiu's orders. With their lightning-like movements and powerful strikes, the 8 men directly scattered to strike at the clustered people around and constantly knock down their opponents. Standing beside Jiang Mentian, Huang Shiqing didn't immediately act but looked at those 8 experts thoroughly smashing and sending his martial brothers upside down instead. His heart jolted and jumped a few times when he saw dozens of martial arts instructors, who possessed deep foundation skills, being overthrown and knocked down. How could this be? How could the strength of these 8 men be so strong? The combat efficiency of each and every one of them was far beyond his. It must be noted that he was at the great accomplishment level martial artist, and only half a step away from breaking through to the level of martial arts grandmaster. By then he would be equal in strength with the vice schoolmaster, Jiang Mentian. Could it be that these 8 men were martial arts grandmasters? It suddenly dawned upon Huang Shiqing the horrifying realization that he seemed to have provoked a great trouble. The time passed by in utter oppression. 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Except for Jiang Mentian and Huang Shiqing, the only people that were left standing were the ones brought by Jiang Mentian. Young man, order your men to stop. Upon seeing that the everlasting feast hall's experts gathered again and were about to come at them, Jiang Mentian immediately shouted. Tang Xiu lifted his hand and sneered, "What's wrong? Are you regretting it and asking for mercy?" Regret? Asking for mercy? Humph, Jiang Mentian coldly snorted. It's been nearly 2 decades that I, Jiang Mentian, have heard someone daring to speak to me like that. Young man, these men you brought are probably not much stronger than I am. But are you sure you still want to continue this matter? I'm very sure, said Tang Xiu. Raising his hand, Jiang Mentian said, think clearly, young man. They may be very strong, but you must understand that it's very difficult for 2 fists to contend with 4. The number of people I have here is only 1/10 of the entire martial arts school. If I were to call every one of us to come here to fight with your men, are you sure you can knock everyone down? Also, once they get surrounded, do you think you and your woman can get out unscathed? Are you threatening me? Tang Xiu loudly laughed. I may fear something, but never once was I afraid of others. All of you, move and clean up the rest aside from this chap. Once again, the everlasting feast hall's 8 experts moved and attacked. This time, even though Huang Shiqing was perfectly aware that he was not a match for the enemy, he still braced himself to face it. However, a lightning-like fist struck his face and an iron-like leg kicked his waist. Along with his scream, he was kicked out directly 7+ meters away and slammed heavily on the ground. Crack. After the 8 burly men knocked down a dozen or so people, they fully executed Tang Xiu's order to trample their thigh bones. Not only these people, they also began to break the thighs of the people they just knocked down a moment ago. Enough. Jiang Mentian abruptly got up from his chair upon seeing the actions of the 8 big men. His eyes were as though spitting out fire as he glared straight at Tang Xiu and angrily shouted. Tang Xiu flung his hands and chuckled. It's been a long time since the last time I acted. Actually, I also wanted to practice, but you are too weak and not worthy for me to act at all. How about you call the strongest one among all of you? Brat, what happened today crossed the point of no return between us. You won't be able to leave today, Jiang Mentian snorted coldly. The strongest person here doesn't need to come out, for I myself am enough to clean up all of you. You know, sometimes self-confidence is indeed a good thing, but overestimating your own strength will lead to grave consequences. Sigh, Tang Xiu shook his head and sighed. Anyone among the 8 of you wants to teach him? I'll reward you with a 50-cent coin reward if you win. Let me do it. A sturdy man stepped forward and said in a deep voice. Tang Xiu waved his hand and said, since you want to perform, then display a good show. But do be careful not to lose, otherwise I'll throw you out and make you manage the business. Understood. The facial expression of the burly man changed and turned solemn. He didn't want to be sent outside to manage the business, for he would have less time to cultivate himself. At this time, the instructors and trainees of the Heroes Crest Martial School, who were rolled about on the ground in pain all over the place, looked at Jiang Mentian and that stalwart man. Many of them angrily roared. Vice Schoolmaster, please exact revenge for us and kill all of them. These damn fucking bastards, my leg is done already. Vice Schoolmaster, you're a Grandmaster expert, you must make them pay 100 times more. With Vice Schoolmaster acting, these people are surely as good as dead. Kill them all and let them know that our Heroes Crest Martial School is not that soft to provoke. Their expressions and eyes when they looked at Jiang Mentian were full of enthusiasm, while it was full of hatred when they glared at Tang Xiu and his men. Though they rarely saw their vice schoolmaster go into action in recent years, they knew very well how strong their vice schoolmaster was. He was a powerful grandmaster, and once he took action, he would be able to clean up them all. Jiang Mentian coldly hummed and bolted toward the stalwart man. His footsteps were extremely steady, calm and yet very fast. After appearing in front of the sturdy man, he sent a barrage of fists toward the burly man's face without hesitation. Humph. The stalwart man snorted coldly and quickly moved his leg to deliver an extremely fast kick. However, it was this leg that swept away Jiang Mention's arm as another foot then flew and trampled on Jiang Mention's chest. Devastation. A through and through one-sided devastation. Both in terms of speed and strength, Jiang Mentian was simply unable to see the strike until it landed, but when the sturdy man went all out, he couldn't even block him and was unable to dodge at all. A barrage of fists struck him like rain to welcome him, and the severe pain made it difficult for Jiang Mentian to breathe. How could this be? Jiang Mentian's expression was full of pain and despair. Never once had he dreamed that this big man would turn out to have yet unleashed his full power before, and the strength he just released on him turned out to be his true strength. However, was he still human? He was already at the Grandmaster level, and there were probably only a handful people who could be on par with him in the entire country. These freaking monsters, where did they come from? Were they people of the same kind of a being like his schoolmaster? Bam! A foot directly kicked Jiang Mention's face, causing his vision to turn dark, and his body was flung 10 meters away and slammed onto the iron pole where Han Qinggu was tied before. Boss, the task is accomplished. Tang Shou nodded in satisfaction and said, "You will receive 2 essence amassing pills, whereas everyone else will receive 1 after we go back." "Thank you, boss." The 8 sturdy men cupped their fists and spoke with a pleasantly surprised expression. As for the instructors and trainees of the martial school, who sat paralyzed on the floor, they all stared at Jiang Mentian, who was lying under the iron pole dumbfounded and gaping with disbelief. How could this be? In their hearts, the vice schoolmaster was a grandmaster of martial arts who was akin to the god of war. But how was he not able to fight back at all and was even KO'd by another? This was not conforming to logic. Could it be that that stalwart man was much more powerful than a martial arts grandmaster expert? In an instant, fear hit their hearts like a tidal wave, sending a chill all over their bodies, and their limbs turned cold. Tang Shou slowly walked to Jiang Mention's side, grabbed his collar and sneered, "Weren't you acting so rampant and violent before? Do you think you're already invincible in the whole world after you reach the martial arts grandmaster level? As far as I'm concerned, you're just a minor buffoon performing antics, a nobody who handles minor matters on behalf of others." Having said that, he straightly dropped Jiang Mentian and said again, "Call out the strongest person you have. If he really has the ability to spar with me, I will let this go and you'll be able to keep your martial school plaque this once." Cough, cough. Jiang Mentian spurted out a mouthful blood and his complexion turned pale. He took out a mobile phone from his pocket, but the phone had been broken by the attack and could no longer be used. Phew. A blurry silhouette approached from a distant place.